Welcome back to Asia Inspires. Today, we are exploring one of the secrets to a more fulfilling and stronger relationship. We are diving into the fascinating world of love languages. But before we get started, make sure that you subscribe and you hit the notification bell so that you can get notified every time that I post a video. I'm your host, Asia. Let's go ahead and get started. Have you ever felt like the relationships that you were in seemed like the two of you were speaking different languages? You're not alone. This is where the concept of love languages comes in. A lot of people feel like that they're familiar with them, and maybe you are. I've seen them all over social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever. But today we're going to explore more about what they are, who created them, Dr. Gary Chapman, as well as how you can learn more about your own love language, as well as the people that you are catering to. So we're not just going to talk about couples and romantic relationships. We're also going to talk about friendships and familial relationships, because these can be used all the way around, not just with your significant other. So first, let's talk about Dr. Gary Chapman. He is a counselor, he's an author, he is a speaker, and he coined this term love languages as he observed many couples where it seemed like that they were speaking different languages. One person would need one thing and then the other person would give them something completely different. So an example that I like to think of is, imagine that you're with someone, you speak Japanese and then this person speaks German. You will be able to communicate with one another by pointing, by using hand gestures and facial expressions and things like that. But it would be so much simpler if the two of you spoke the same common language, such as English, or if one of you spoke the other person's language. So that's what this is all about. It's all about learning your partner's love language, or your children's love language, or your parents, your friends, whoever that you're in relationships with, so that you can better communicate with them and so that you can feel better loved. So one of the books that he's written, because he's written multiple on this concept of love language, is the 5 Love Language Secrets to a Love That Lasts. You can buy this on Amazon. I'll post a link in my description box where you can buy the book. He also has it for teens, he has it for children, he has it for military, spouses, for long distance. There's so many different books that he has created from this one concept. And like I said before, he has observed couples and watched them not be able to communicate with each other, and saw that when they were able to speak the same language or love each other in the other person's language, their relationship was able to be stronger and healthier. Now keep in mind, these couples who are able to just switch to a different language, they did not have deep-rooted issues. So if there's infidelity, or if you're talking about familial issues, if there's trauma or anything that needs forgiveness, then this is not necessarily going to work. It's not just going to be, oh well, let me love my partner in this language and that's just going to be it. It's not like that. It's going to definitely take a lot more work than that. But if you want to upgrade your relationship, if there's not a lot of deep issues, then this is one of the ways that you can do so. So make sure you check out his book, and also just make sure that you apply this to your own life. What do you think that your love language is, and what was it for you growing up? Keep in mind that a lot of times that our love languages reflect the way that we grew up. So I'll explore that in a little more, but let's go ahead and explore what the first love language is. So as we're exploring these love languages, I really want you to keep in mind that we as humans desire to be in intimate relationships. So those of you who are like, no, I don't want to be in a romantic relationship, I don't need nobody, I don't trust nobody, know that those are defense mechanisms, and that's not your natural biology that's telling you that. Because we are wired to be in better relationships, or to be in healthy relationships. Our brains light up when we're around people that we love. We're just created to be in community with one another. So if you have that mentality that, no, I don't want to be with nobody, I don't want to be with nobody romantically, I don't need my family, I don't need no friends, it's just me, myself, and I really pray that you get healing, because that's not the way that you're supposed to be. But the first language is words of affirmation. And actually, let me clarify that there really is no first, second, or third, or fifth love language. These are just as they come to me. So like I said, the first one that we're going to talk about is words of affirmation. Some people need you to be very appreciative towards them and compliment them, and your words are really boost them up. So this can be seen in writing your partner love letters, or quick text messages that just say how much I appreciate you, how much I love you. Like I said, compliments. So when your girl gets her hair done and you tell her, oh baby, you look better than Beyonce, oh, that just fills her up. Or if your man is looking real good, you're just like, oh baby, you look great, that fills him up. You can write little notes on little post-it notes and stick them on mirrors, but it's really just telling your partner how much you appreciate them, how much you love them, the things that you like about them. It really just lifts them up and makes them feel really good. For other people, actions speak louder than words. So the second one that we're talking about is acts of services. And this is where you're running errands for your partner, you're cooking for them, you're taking their car to go get detailed, you're doing the things that they may not want to do, or the things that they have to do, you're just taking it off their plate. And so a lot of people in this realm, they really thrive on not having to ask you to do something, but you just going and taking the initiative and doing it for them. It could be something tedious, such as cleaning, deep cleaning a house for them, or going grocery shopping. It could be something small, like organizing a bookshelf. I mean, that's not really small, but depending on how big the bookshelf is, it could be small. It doesn't have to be anything really elaborate, and it just depends on what your partner likes. Receiving gifts. This is another love language that I feel like a lot of people misinterpret. Some people don't like dating those whose love language is gifts because they feel like, oh, you're materialistic or you're a gold digger, whatever the case may be. And yes, there are some people who their love language being gifts means that, oh, you have to buy me Dior, or you have to buy me Prada, or other expensive name brands that I don't even know about. But really the idea is buying your partner gifts that remind you of them. It's not just about the price of it. It could be going to a thrift store and seeing an antique item that was $2 and being like, oh, this reminded me so much of you, or I know that you were looking for something like this, so I got this for you. Or I went on vacation last week and I got you a shot glass that from the country, or a t-shirt, or whatever the case may be. If you know that your partner really likes books, it's buying them a book. If you know that they really like dresses or shoes or maybe expensive things, and it's getting them that. And it don't even have to be buying, honestly. I've heard of people who going on a walk, picking flowers for their partner and giving it to them. That's also giving your partner gifts. So remember, it doesn't have to be materialistic, although there are people who prefer to receive gifts that have to do with material things. But we're not even gonna get into that. The fourth love language is quality time. And this is where your partner is giving you your undivided attention, or their undivided attention, and they're spending time with you. And it could be something as simple as sitting on the couch watching Netflix, binge watching a TV show. It could be going on a vacation. It could be really doing anything, going bowling, or it's just spending time together. Like I said, quality time together. Some people, it may be cool for y'all to just sit on the couch and you scrolling through your phone, the other person scrolling through their phone, but it may be a matter of doing something together, whether it's cooking together or taking a walk together. It doesn't have to be expensive. The fifth and the last love language is physical touch. This often gets mixed up with sexual touch. Physical touch is non-sexual touch, meaning hugs, kisses, just stroking an arm, hand on a thigh, or head on the shoulder. It's just being touchy-feely with one another, being very affectionate to the other person. And this actually happens to be my top love language. Is physical touch. So I'm a very touchy-feely person, and sometimes your love language is going to translate into different types of relationships. So for me, in my romantic life with my boyfriend, I'm very touchy-feely, as well as with my friends, as well as with my family. I'm just a touchy-feely person. Physical touch is my love language, but they are kind of on a spectrum. So if you take the quiz, it's not just going to be like, oh, this is your only love language. My top is physical touch, and then there's quality time, words of affirmation is third, acts of service is fourth, and then gifts are fifth. This doesn't mean that I don't like gifts. It just means that I would rather you give me a genuine, loving, warm hug than for you to buy me anything. That's just how I am, and I realize it's because that's the way that I grew up. So not that my parents didn't buy me things. I grew up an only child, so I pretty much got, you know, whatever it is that I wanted, to be honest. But my mom was very affectionate towards me. She was very much so like, when she came home, I always hugged her, or she always greeted me with a hug or with a kiss, or whatever the case may be. And I think that helped me to build that love language. But that may not be the same for everybody, because I do know people who their parents are like that, and they're just like, no, you come home from work, cool, what did you bring me? So their love language is gifts. So I would strongly encourage you to take the quiz online. If, like I said, purchase the book, then there's more ideas of what love language is. He talks about the history of it, talks about the research that he did. There's also a quiz in the back, and there's also more ideas of ways that you can love your partner in their love language. But you can also go online and take the quiz to figure out what your love language is. I would definitely encourage, if you're in a romantic relationship, even if you're not in a romantic relationship, to learn about your love language, because you want to know, how do I like to receive loving? It may be very obvious, but you may take the quiz and it's something completely different. Of course, I would go based off of what you think, because you know yourself better than a quiz, but I would explore that further of, maybe I thought my love language was physical touch, but really it's my top love language is quality time. But yeah, it's important for you to know that before you enter into relationships, because it's easier for you to be partnered with somebody who also speaks that same language. Doesn't mean it's impossible. You can learn to adjust to somebody else's love language, and I'm going to talk about that a little more in a second. But if you are in a romantic relationship, I would say yes, the two of you to take the quiz together and spend some quality time together, talking about what does that mean? Does it surprise you? Did it not surprise you? And how can you go from there? How can you better love each other in each other's language? So I'm sure we all know somebody, or maybe it was our own childhood experience where we wanted to be loved in one way, but our parents loved us in a different way. And I really want to talk specifically about parent and child dynamics, but keep in mind that this could be used for friendships. This could be used for aunt and nephew, aunt and niece, uncle. You know, it could be used all the way around. But let's talk about parent and child, because a lot of times children's needs are getting unmet. And you have parents who are like, well, I make sure that my child is eating, I make sure they got clothes on their back, but they're not filling their love meter. And I'll talk a little bit about love meters in just a second, which is something he also talks about in his book. So if we look at the 5 love languages, you may have a child whose words of affirmation is their love language. Words of affirmation is the way that they like to receive love. It's the way that they know that you love them and that you're proud of them. And there are some parents, and sometimes it's not their own fault. It's just the way that they grew up. So as a person who is trained to become a counselor, I like to work with people and look at the generational influences, not just what's happening now, but how were you raised? How was your parents raised? Because you may have parents who, because of the time period, and this is particular, I can't speak for other nationalities or races, but for Black people specifically, there were periods of time in which it was better for you not to show emotion outside because of everything that was going on. And so sometimes that bled over into the household, where parents were either too tired from working all the time, or just didn't have the energy to show their children affection. And so there wasn't a lot of I love yous, or give me a hug, or I'm proud of you, and things like that. You had to survive. And this is not the case for everybody. Please keep in mind. But if you look at some of the historical things that have happened in Black people's lives, you can sometimes it's better for you to or it can help you to understand why certain ideas were passed down. So let's go back to words of affirmation. You may have a child who needs to hear, I'm proud of you. Or more importantly, you should be proud of yourself because you did it. I noticed that you've been studying really hard for that test or for that exam, and you passed it. And now I'm gonna put your test on the refrigerator. And every time I see it, I'm gonna tell you how hard I know you worked, and that you should be proud of yourself. Or I'm gonna tell you how much I love you, and just how I love you for you being who you are. Not because you passed an exam, not because you're the star football player, but I love you. I'm gonna love you regardless. That may be your child's love language. Or your child's love language may be gifts. It may be that they love it when you go to the grocery store and you said you were just going to get stuff to make spaghetti, but instead you saw their favorite Little Debbie snack, or their favorite ice cream, or their favorite piece of candy, or a toy that you know that they've been wanting for a while, and you brought it home to them. Or You know, it can be something inexpensive. We going to the dollar store and getting something, a snack, like I said, a snack or a toy or whatever the case may be. Some flowers. Bring your child some flowers. Those are all gifts that your child may receive, and it shows them that you really love and you really appreciate them. Acts of service. It could be your child really enjoys when you cook for them, and not just cook because you're the parent and you know that you have to cook for your child, but like intentionally, baby, what do you want for dinner today? Okay, you want this? I'm gonna make sure that you get it today. Giving your child an option, like, do you want this today or do you want that today? That is acts of, a way of showing them acts of service. I don't really know what types of errands do children need to run. I don't know, but if your child has a project and you know they're really stressed out about it, helping them with that project, that's an act of service as well. Also quality time. So I know we're in the day of age where social media is it's so easy for you to be sitting next to your child and both of y'all are just sitting there scrolling on social media. But spending intentional quality time with your child by binge watching a TV show that the two of you agree on, or having your child teach them or teach you how to play their favorite video game, or teach them the latest TikTok trend, and just spending that giving them your undivided attention, spending time with them, letting them know that you are present with them and that you're there for them. That may be their love language. Or physical touch. You may have a child who is touchy-feely. You may have a child who, when you come home from work, they just running at the door and they just give you a big hug and give you a kiss, or they're always up under you, always have their head on your shoulder, or you know, rubbing your arm or something like that. That may be their love language. And I get it, sometimes it's not always easy if you have work or you're stressed out to spend quality time with them, or maybe you have your own mental health issues that's going on and you don't feel like it. You just like you feel like you physically can't, or you don't have the energy to be affectionate towards your child, or to spend quality time with them, or to do acts of service, to cook their favorite meal for them. You rather just go pick up some fast food. I get it. But keep in mind that if you're not pouring into them in that way, then you're not necessarily teaching them that you don't love them, but you're just not speaking the same language that they speak. And so a lot of times, as like I said, as someone who is training to become a counselor, I've seen it in clients. I see it in my own family. You probably see it in your own family as well, with friends as well, that I wanted this for my parent, but what I got was this. I wanted them to spend quality time with them. I wanted them to take me outside and play football with me, or shoot a basketball with me, or play soccer, whatever the case may be, with me, to help me practice my cheer routine. But instead what they did was they bought me things. So like I said about the partners taking the quiz, I want to strongly encourage you as a parent to have your children take the quiz. There's also a quiz on the website as well for children. I think there's one for teens as well. I don't know if it separates for children and teens, or if it's the same, I forgot. But have your children take that quiz, and then practice loving them in that language. You may be surprised. You may have thought that they really enjoy gifts, but come to find out that they're really a words of affirmation type of child. As I mentioned before, we have a desire to be in intimate relationships. So let's use the child example again, that your children want to develop a better relationship with you. And regardless of your child's age, it's not too late. If they're a teenager, let's say that they're 17, it's going to be a lot more difficult to build a closer relationship with them than if they're 7 or if they're 2. But the thing is for you to continue to try. Also, if you have a little child, a toddler, whatever the case may be, it's not going to be easy for you to take the quiz for them, or have them take the quiz, of course, because they may not understand some of the questions that are on there, and they also can't read, or you know, maybe your 2-year-old can't read. So with anything, don't just take the quiz, but also observe. Think about your partner, think about your children, think about yourself, and notice when you give your partner gifts, are they just like, oh, thanks, wow, okay, I appreciate it, and, you know, put it aside? Or they're like, oh my gosh, babe, that was so sweet, or oh my gosh, mom, that was so sweet, or oh my gosh, family member or friend, whatever, that was so sweet, and they display it, even though it was the smallest thing, it was the cheapest thing, but it was something that was meaningful, something that you made, and they really, really cherished it. Well, maybe their love language is gifts. If when they greet you, they're always giving you a big hug and a big kiss, and they're always got their feet on you, or always gotta touch you in some way. Maybe their love language is physical touch. Or if they're the type of person who's like, hey, I'm really booked, can you help me with this, or can you help me with that, or let me help you in this way, then their love language is probably acts of service. And a lot of people tend to love you in ways that they want to be loved. So you also got to look at it in that way too, of, well, they give me love in this way. Even if it's not your love language, that could mean that that's the way that they want to be loved. But let me explain what love tanks are. So Dr. Gary Chapman talked about this in his book as well, and he pretty much is explaining that we all have love tanks, love meters that need to be filled, and our relationships around us fill it up. So if we go back to this idea that we all desire intimacy, you can look at it as an intimacy tank. So if we all want to be in intimate relationships, but the people around us are not loving us in that way, they're not filling up our tanks, then we're not going to feel loved. Even if that person tells you 100 times that, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. It's just like somebody saying, like if I say te amo, or te quiero in Spanish, but you don't speak Spanish, you don't know what I'm saying, right? Or if I'm signing to you, I believe that this is how you say I love you in sign language, but you don't understand it, then you don't know that I'm telling you I love you and I appreciate you, right? So if we use these water bottles as an example, this is what we aim to be. It not necessarily filled, or I mean that is the goal, to be filled, but as close to full as possible. But sometimes this is what our relationships look like. They're not filled at all. So if we have people in our lives who are pouring into our relationships in the way that we like to receive love, then we can get to this, as close to this as possible. But if you have a child, for example, let's go back to the child-parent relationship, where they really want to teach you their video games, or the latest game, how to play it, or they really want to shoot a basketball with you, even if you hate basketball, or even if you're terrible at basketball and they're really good, well, really they just want to spend some time with you. But if you're like, oh, come give me a hug, come give me a kiss, and come sit by me, and let's just, cuddle, that's just pouring a little bit into their love tank instead of pouring a lot. So if I give you my own example of how I like for my tank to be filled, like I said, my top 3 love languages are physical touch, quality time, and then words of affirmation. So if my boyfriend, for example, is going to, if he's like, hey, let's go get some food and let's go sit on the couch and let's binge watch a TV show and cuddle, that's gonna fill my love meter up like this. Versus if he's like, hey, I bought you this gift and I'm gonna go to the grocery store and buy your grocery list. I appreciate it. It's not that I don't appreciate it. That's just not at the top of my list. That's not yet at the top of my love language. It's speaking a language I understand, but not the language I'm most comfortable with, if that makes sense. So you want to speak the person's love language, not the language you're most comfortable with. And that's the part that I really want to drill as well, is that you're not always going to be comfortable speaking your partner or your child's love language, and it doesn't matter. And to give you an example of this, if we're going to use the example of languages, when I was seeing clients during my practicum days, I worked with a predominantly Hispanic population at one point, and so I would work with some of the kids, and some of the parents did not speak English at all. They may know very basic English, but like if I wanted to get in detail about their children, I could not speak English to them. I had to speak Spanish to them. So as someone who has studied Spanish for years, speaking Spanish sometimes makes me uncomfortable because it's not my primary language. My first language is English, obviously. But I know that if I wanted to convey something to this parent, I had to get uncomfortable and speak Spanish. I had to make mistakes and speak Spanish, but I was getting my point across. Because if I was speaking English to this mom or to this dad or grandma, whatever the case may be, she's gonna be looking at me like, no entiendo. She's not gonna understand what I'm trying to say to her. But if I spoke it in a language that she understood, then she's like, oh, okay, I understand what you're saying. Here's how I can help. Here's how I can do A, B, C, and D. This is what's going on at home, whatever the case may be. It's the same thing, essentially. even though it may make you uncomfortable to be touchy-feely towards your partner, to be touchy-feely towards your child, if that's the way that they understand your love for them, then I would say get uncomfortable. Get uncomfortable, practice, learn. It's not something that's going to change overnight. It's not something that you can expect for your parent or your partner to just be like, oh, I figured it out, and I know how to love you in this way. It's going to take practice, just like it does with learning a language. And like I said, it's going to take you being uncomfortable and pushing yourself to say, my partner, my child likes to spend quality time, but I'm more a person that's always on the go. Let me slow myself down. Let me devote 30 minutes a day. Let me devote an hour a week, whatever you can, to this partner, and it will make a difference in your relationship. Now, once again, as long as there's not deep issues in the relationship, if there's infidelity or not trust, or between parent and child, or between partners, or some other issues that I'm sure you can think about, then no, it's not going to change things. But if it's just something as simple as miscommunication, then yeah, it can help out a lot. And I really want to challenge you to try it. Try devoting, you can't put a numeric value on it, but something that I have recommended for couples as well as family members that I've worked with previously is to write down a list of 10 to 20 things that you can do for your partner or for your child or for your family member in their love language. And you may be like, I don't know, I have no idea. And that's when I would say, you write down how you would like to be loved, they write down how they would like to be loved, and y'all exchange it to each other. Put it in your phone, take a picture of it or whatever, and look at it often, so that it will become automatic. Like, okay, what can I do for this person today, or what can I do for this person this week? And then make a goal, make an effort, a sincere, genuine effort to help that person or to love that person in that language, and watch your relationship grow. And it's not going to happen overnight. I've already said that, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be, I cuddled with you last night, or we spent an hour together yesterday, or I wrote you that love letter yesterday. Why do I feel distant with you today? It's going to take you doing it consistently before you're going to see results, just like with learning a language. That's all I have for today's episode. I really hope that you learned a lot. Make sure that you send this video to a friend if you liked it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you can get notified every time that I post a video. As well as comment. Leave a comment in the comment section if you learned something, what you learned, what your love language is, as well as if you want to share any stories about how there was miscommunication between you and a partner, or you and your family member when it came to the way that you like to receive love or give love, or if there was a match between you and your partner and you and your family member. I'd like to hear more about that as well. I am Asia once again, and I hope that you continue to spread love and give love. And if there's a video that you'd like for me to make about romantic relationships or anything like that, please let me know. But until then, continue to spread the love and give love, and stay tuned for more content around building healthy relationships.